I would like to introduce now Brian Beanlands. Brian is a patient, and he has graciously agreed to tell his story to us. Come on up, Brian.
So hello, everyone. My name is Brian Beanlands, and as Karen said, but I have kidney cancer, and I'm currently a patient of Dr. Wood. When Dr. Wood asked me if I would tell my story, I thought, well, my story is not really unique, not unique in the sense that we're all going through the same journey, this journey of kidney cancer, whether we are patients or caregivers or family members. But our circumstances are all different, and the way we deal with the issues that we have, the day-to-day issues, are different. And I think that makes our stories different. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about my story. I don't know how many of you know Dr. Wood, but she's awfully hard to refuse as well.
And I'm going to interrupt you, Brian. Just speak a little bit more into the mic for the...
Okay, can I move the mic down a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. But before I tell you my story, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background, because I'd like to refer to it a little bit later on. I spent 35 years at the Bedford Institute of Oceanography in a research and development department. And that department, we were basically problem solvers. That's what we did. We received problems from scientists at the Institute that had no solutions, and we were asked to try and deal with them. We designed and developed instruments and electronic systems, technical systems to solve specific oceanographic problems. We solved these problems not only for the Canadian government, but we also took our solutions around the world to institutes all over the world who had similar problems and trying to help them with their solutions. This is what I did for 35 years. And I only mention this because I'd like to talk a little bit about it later. I retired from BIO in September 2013, and within 2 weeks of being retired, I was talked into or coerced into a new career as a teacher at the Nova Scotia Community College. And my task there was to start a new program called the Ocean Technology. It's an advanced diploma in ocean technology. My journey began while I was working with NSCC in February of 2014. I woke up in the middle of the night and felt a small lump under my lower right abdomen. And I didn't know what it was. I moved around a little bit, and the lump moved around. Almost felt like a golf ball down in my mattress, and thought it was inside the mattress. It didn't seem to be coming from my body anywhere, and I checked, and I was pretty sure that I wasn't lying on anything, well, excitable. So I was convinced that the problem was in the mattress. It went away, but over the next few weeks, it kept coming back every night. And sometimes it would last a little bit longer, and sometimes it wouldn't last long at all. And I got to the point where I eventually was able to roll over on my back, and I could feel the lump in my lower right abdomen. So I was now convinced that it wasn't in the mattress at all, but I still wasn't really concerned, because about a year before this, I had been diagnosed with borderline diabetic, and I had decided that I was going to tackle this problem and deal with it the best way I can. I lost 50 pounds. So I kind of assumed that this lump in my stomach was just something that had been there all the time. Maybe it was my pancreas or my liver or something that I hadn't felt since I was 18 years old. And didn't think a whole lot about it. But as time went on, it became more and more apparent that, I don't know, this lump doesn't feel right. So it wasn't until about early May of 2014 that I visited my family doctor. My family doctor, by the way, who's been with us step by step and side by side through this whole journey. And she had a look at the lump in my belly and said, no, That lump shouldn't be there. But it doesn't really feel all that ominous. I think it might be just a benign cyst or something else, but don't worry about it too much. But we need to have it looked after anyway. So after some CT scans and x-rays and ultrasounds, came back to my doctor, and she said that I had a rather large tumor that was protruding from my kidney, protruding through my stomach to the point where I could feel it with my fingers. I had kidney cancer. Well, things progressed fairly quickly after that. I was referred to a urology surgeon, and I got to see him quite soon, and after a number of tests that he did, he determined that things weren't as bad as they looked, that the cancer had not metastasized, it had not moved around anywhere, it was associated directly with my kidney and nowhere else, and that if I were to get this thing removed immediately, that the prognosis was really good, that we should be able to cure this, he said. So it was only a couple of weeks later, by the first week of June, I was in the hospital and had my right kidney removed. Well, they also took the tumor. Yeah, presumably. Everything went well, the operation went well. And after the operation, I was told that they got everything. There was no sign of cancer anywhere else. There was no sign of cancer in lymph nodes, and all was good. And that I should have a complete recovery, and that I had about a 95% chance that the cancer would not recur within 5 years. So the recovery process was fine, and in mid-August I was back in school waiting for the first group of students in September. In January 2015, 6 months later, I went for my first follow-up check with the surgeon, and after having a CT scan, and we went into his office, and he said, "You know, Brian, everything looks pretty good. There's a few little shadows on your liver, but I'm not concerned about it." He said, "It's probably just nothing, and I don't want you to be concerned about it. We're going to have to follow this up anyway a little bit with another CT scan," but he said, "I'm not worried about it," so his words, "You go home, and I'll see you in 6 months." So a couple of weeks later, I had another CAT scan or CT scan and ultrasound, and we were invited back to the, actually what happened after I had the CT scan, I went back to my work, my lab, and there was a voicemail on my phone was the doctor asking, "Could you please come to the doctor's office at the hospital this afternoon for an appointment?" So I remember picking up my wife and driving to the hospital and saying, "This doesn't sound good." Well, when we got to the hospital, the doctor was there, and he proceeded to show us the results of my liver scan, the CT scan of my liver. And I remember as he was going through the layers of the CT scan, and I could see the dark shadows appear and disappear. And I had this awfully funny feeling and this awfully sensation that this kind of looks like, it's a strange sensation, this kind of looks like slicing up a Christmas fruitcake. It was like, you could see the cherries appearing and disappearing as you slice through the fruitcake. And sometimes there's 2 or 3 at a time, and they come and go, and I lost track of counting them. Anyway, he finished going through the scan, and I said, "Oh, doctor, I don't understand. What does all this mean?" And he looked at me and he said, "Brian, we got it wrong. We didn't get all of the cancer. And you now have inoperable tumors in your liver, your lungs, and your abdomen. There's nothing more that we can do for you. I'm going to refer you to a medical oncologist." And then he got up to leave. There was nothing else. I was shocked. I was just devastated. We both were. So, but I asked him, I said, before you go, I said, I don't understand. I have no idea what this all means. 6 months ago, or even before we came into this room, we thought I was cancer-free. The bar was set at 95% that I would not recur, the cancer would not recur. I don't know what this means. What does this mean? And where is that bar set now? And he just looked at me and he said, very low. And then he left. And I remember walking out of the room with my wife and feeling like, we had just been swept out the door. My younger sister works at the hospital, and she met us just outside the doctor's office, and I can remember sitting in the couch outside the doctor's office with my wife and Kathy and Laurel and I, and we sat there for half an hour and we just cried. I have a great respect for my surgeon and what he did for us, but at that point, we were at the lowest point of my journey. It was a point of total despair. It was a loneliness, a despair, helplessness like I've never felt before. Our whole world had been turned upside down. We didn't know what was going to happen. We had no idea. Nobody told us. This thing seemed to have progressed awfully fast, and we didn't know whether I had 2 weeks to live or 2 or 3 months to live. It was a time of total despair for us. It was also other feelings of anger that we had been just swept out the door, that, the surgical system couldn't do anything more for us, and I guess we couldn't do anything more for them either. In truth, the system hadn't really let us down, because 10 days later we had an appointment with a medical oncologist by the name of Dr. Laurie Wood, and that's where our lives changed. They changed completely. Dr. Wood, her nurse Pat, and the rest of her team was like a fresh breath of air after a long week of choking. Dr. Wood explained the disease inside my body and what it was doing to it. She also explained that there was no cure for my disease, but that there were treatments and drugs which could slow it down or stall the disease, temporarily at least, but maybe for some period of time. She also explained, as she said, the good news and the bad news. The bad news is that the typical radiation and chemotherapy do not work for kidney cancer cells, but the good news was that I won't have to have radiation or chemotherapy. So she suggested that we should try a therapy called targeted therapy, which we did, and I'm on a drug now called sunitinib, or Sutent is the common name for it. I'm sure a lot of you people are familiar with that drug. I've been on that drug now for 14 months, and it is working. The tumors have stabilized, they are not growing. Now, this drug is not without some significant side effects. However, Dr. Wood and Pat have worked tirelessly and empathetically to try and minimize these side effects. And it has worked for me. And just a little side note right now, I know it's not just the medical aspects of Dr. Wood's work that impressed me at all. I don't think that many people appreciate the amount of paperwork that must go through a system when a person has cancer. Pat calls Dr. Wood the queen of forms, and I believe it. I mean, I know just my own forms that I've sent to her through Blue Cross and Sun Life and long-term disability from the school and disability insurance from CPP. She takes them and fills them out, and I've never heard her grumble once about filling out forms. To put it simply, I don't know what we would have done without Dr. Wood and her team in my life. But as much as Dr. Wood has done to help me through this journey, it is the love and support of my family that gets me through each day. I don't know where I'd be without you. When I wake up at night worrying about what might happen and what might be, I turn over, hug my pillow, pretend that it's my whole family, and then I go back to sleep. Problem solvers. Now, I alluded to you earlier that I consider myself a problem solver. I'm a problem solver not only by trade, but also by nature. And I'm a bit of a workaholic as well. And when presented with a problem, I often become obsessed with it, obsessed to the point of finding a solution no matter what the cost. This is the way I worked for over 35 years. One of the tools that I used to solve problems was just to spend more time on it, or in other words, to throw more hours at it. It was not uncommon for me to wake up at 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, mulling over a problem, and I couldn't sleep. Come downstairs, pick up a pencil and paper, pick up my laptop, and work on the problem at hand all night long until I got tired and went to sleep. It was always the journey was to try and find a solution to this problem. So when I was confronted with this problem that we call kidney cancer, my initial reaction was that I was going to become obsessed with finding a solution, even though I knew that I had absolutely no skill sets or aptitude to deal with it. I soon accepted that this was one problem that I could not solve. And once I accepted this fact, it was strangely and ironically comforting to me. No matter how many hours that I put into this, I'm not going to solve this problem. Que sera, sera. Or as the young people say today, it is what it is. So I sleep well at night, and I do not wake up dwelling on the problem. It's not that I've given up on this. On the contrary, I'm fighting it very hard. It's just that I realize I have a team of the best problem solvers in the world working on it, and I am determined to follow their directions, whatever recommendations they give me. So when Dr. Wood said that I had to drink 2 liters of water a day to help my kidney function, I do that. I drink 2 liters of water a day. Although it's not uncommon to put the blessings on her in the night when I wake up 4 or 5 times and have to pee. I'm well aware that not all problems can be solved in the time frame that we would like. Just as we were not able to solve all the problems presented to us at BIO, I realize that this problem called kidney cancer might not be solved in the time that I have left. But that's not the point. That's not what is important. What is important is that we have teams of medical professionals like Dr. Wood all over the world and people like Kidney Cancer Canada who are working tirelessly on this problem. And I know that they will never give up until they have found a solution. And that's what's important. And for that, they have my utmost respect, my admiration, and my undying gratitude. Thank you.